So, welcome to our Be the Glue series, where we share short and casual but very impactful conversations with individuals who have been the glue or are the glue by bridging people, ideas, and efforts together to create something meaningful or just navigate, change. So, today I am joined by my friend Dana Zellers, who is an executive coach and helps busy corporations, teams, and professionals succeed without just trying to do more. So, Dana, thank you for joining. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Elena. It's so great to be here. I'm thrilled to have yet another amazing chat with you.
So, tell me about being the glue. So you worked in corporate for a while,
I did.
then you transitioned into executive coaching, and you've been doing some work with clients. And so, tell me about those two worlds and how does that look like being the glue in those two different worlds?
Yeah, no, it's so interesting. And I love that expression about kind of being the glue. When I was in roles, I worked in tech. I was usually in sort of a program director, executive producer role. And so it was kind of my job to be the glue. Like I was responsible for figuring out all of the scenarios, from soup to nuts, making sure that I was talking with all the right people, coordinating with all the right people. And it was something that there were parts of it that I loved, and that I was really good at, and all of those things. But I will remember in one of my jobs, they give out awards kind of at the end of the year, and I got an award for the expression they used was people who don't suck. So I won one of those awards, and the description in the content was, "We don't really know what she does, but we know we couldn't do this without her."
Oh, wow.
And that was a little bit eye-opening to me about one, the fact that the importance was coming through, but also there was a little bit of a disconnect in that I don't think people really understood because I was so used to just taking care of things on my own, that I don't think the full depth of the things that I did came through. And it is one of the issues that I work with a lot of the people that I work with today. I work with similar people who are the glue. They are out there. They are smart. They are capable. They are self-driven a lot of the times, and they are taking care of all those things. And it has made them really successful in some ways. But I think in other ways, we also have to kind of learn the balance and maybe a little bit of self-promotion to make sure that everybody is clear on what we are doing.
That is a very good point. And you're making all I could think was HR professionals because we are the glue in so many situations. A lot of people think we just hire and fire people, and that's not true. And it's back to your word. We don't know what she does, but we really can't do things without her. Very
Yep.
similar for HR. And so tell me a little bit about your background and your business and what you've been doing.
Yeah, yeah. So I started actually in traditional advertising. I'm old enough that there was not really web development when I sort of started in the professional circles, but living in San Francisco, it was one of the things where I had an opportunity to move over to Hotwired, which was one of the first digital magazines, because they were trying to figure out how to run advertising in, an online space. And so for me, getting to be in some of those positions where I was stepping into worlds that I didn't know, and really helping to figure them out is one of the themes that sort of led my career. So I moved into technology. I started doing programming, web development myself to a degree, and then sort of moved back and forth as agencies started doing more web development. I started still staying on some of the agency side, and then I started also working corporate side, mostly on websites, also with some product development. And again, the people that I worked with were amazing. They were smart, they were creative. We were working on projects that were 9 times out of 10 things that nobody had ever done before, in ways that nobody had ever done before. And while that is super exciting, it's also very taxing. There are times when you're kind of trying to make things not fall apart, as opposed to really make things perfect and amazing that everybody wants them to be. And so I personally was sort of noticing more and more of those things in myself, about where there were times when I didn't think there was an answer to things being better. And I wasn't sure what to do about it. And so I kept just sort of exploring. And when coaching became more and more of an industry, something that I knew more about, initially when I got into coaching, I went and got my certificate in coaching in about 2016 because I actually thought it would be one more, tool to add to my toolkit, something that would make me that much more successful. But what I learned through that coaching certification program and continuing with my education from there is that there is a complement to sort of that, that person who goes into those circumstances and figures out what we need to do and tells people how to do it, with really realizing, okay, what are we missing that we're not able to figure out how to get life balance, how to truly get recognized for the work that we're doing. When we step into a new role like leadership, which a lot of us are eager to step into, how do we figure out how to do that when nobody's showing us the way? And so learning how, I think, really kind of becoming the best in our personal and professional lives is a combination of sort of learning some tactical tools, but it's also having somebody to partner with you to help you get insights that I think you're not going to get on your own. That idea that just because I'm good at things and problem solving doesn't mean I have to figure it out on my own. Somebody can help me figure out how to, again, be more impactful with my time, not just taking on more and more responsibilities. Learning what are the most impactful things to do to start with. And also figuring out how to use relationships in a way that's authentic and productive and really helps us be more successful as a team than any one of us is going to be on our own.
Yeah.
And so coupling kind of those worlds, but that evolution for me was really just such an eye-opener, that I knew I wanted to stay in the coaching role. And so I've moved into coaching, I do facilitation, I do speaking, and I really help the kinds of people that I used to work with, hopefully start to figure out a way to create beautiful personal and professional lives.
I love that. That's so inspiring. I love it.
Thank
And
you.
so what is your favorite glue story? I guess I bet you have a bunch.
Yeah, I do. I think that idea, again, I think that most of the people that I work with are the people who they see where there's a gap and they put themselves into it. And I was working with somebody recently who reached a point where they were overtaxed, like many of us are. And they kind of said to me, I want to stop pointing out the holes because I don't want to fill it.
Interesting.
They're like, every time I raise something, it's like, great, then you'll take care of it. And so one of the things we really worked on is there's a way to be the glue without feeling like you have to put yourself into every gap. There's a way to tie those things together, to see that big picture, to look strategically at the organization. That doesn't mean you're necessarily executing all of those things. And that those two things don't have to be true at the same time. So we don't have to stop. We don't have to shut ourselves down in order to survive. We just need to shift the way that we're approaching a lot of those circumstances, because those bright insights that we have are so important to ourselves and to the organization, in really being successful.
And it's the people pleasing comes up so
The people
much.
pleasing comes out so much. But
Yeah.
it's so funny too, because most of the people that I work with, they're actually not waiting for somebody else to tell them they have to do things.
Right.
They're assuming they have to do things and they're inserting them into those positions. And if somebody asks them to do something, rather than, offering up like, hey, I don't have the bandwidth, or like priority wise, is this really where we want to be focusing on our time? Or how do we tackle this problem together? They're just afraid to even have a conversation, to get curious, to start asking questions, because they have this assumption about the way that it's always been done.
Yep.
And so by shifting the way that we have that interaction, we can do both. We don't have to make people unhappy, but we can start asking those questions about how do we make everyone happier, as opposed to just assuming that I have to step into each of these roles.
And you have to collaborate with others to some extent because even like you can't do it all. To
You
some
can't.
At some point you're going to have to bring people in to
Yeah.
figure other pieces out.
Yeah.
So do it sooner, pause, reflect, ask the
Absolutely.
questions, and then get into like what are we actually doing here?
Yeah, because I think part of the challenge too is that a lot of the people, like we started in our roles and we are the doers. So
Mhm.
you are hired for a task. You do that task, you do more of that task, you do that task well. But as you raise up in your career, that starts to work against you. And so not only are you not able to tackle all the things people are asking you to do, but you're actually probably starting to do some of those things a little less good than you would like to be doing them because you are choosing to do more rather than, again, taking that step back and really thinking, like, okay, what is good enough on some of these things? What are the things that are not a priority for me or for the team? And what are the things that are really important for me to do to a certain success level where I want to make sure I have enough time, where I want to make sure I'm not the person who's suddenly late on things, who comes into a meeting frazzled because I've spread myself too thin. Because those things are starting to deteriorate, those things that are going to take you to the next level, because people aren't going to see you as a person who can step into those roles.
And, you made me think, glue needs time to set.
Yes,
So
I love that.
right? I mean, keeping it with a theme, right? Uh, but maybe taking that time to reflect and taking that time to ask those questions before you make a decision or before you choose a route and before you bring more people in.
Yeah, yeah. So much of the work that I do with my clients is okay, we want to stop reacting to things. We want to respond to things, but we want to kind of have enough time to be intentional. Each one of those conversations and circumstances and it isn't in a silo. So, and again, this is one of those things somebody might be asking us for an immediate answer, but we usually don't have to give one. Very few things are that time sensitive. So slow down to speed up.
Oh, I'm loving this because I recorded one more of these with another colleague who works
Mhm.
at HR, and we were talking about the respond versus react and how, reacting is all the emotions and just pausing and slowing down. So it's very interesting that you're talking about this too, because there might be a theme here, and I would
I
be
think it is.
curious to see, you know, other people were asking
Yeah.
about the glue and how you're approaching collaboration and connecting with other people. I wonder if this might be a theme, especially because there's so much change in the world, there's
Yes.
so much negativity in the world. And this is where this theme came out for me, right? There's so much division and so much like, just yuck. Why not focus on how can you bring people together, unite, and be the glue versus divide? So that to
Yeah.
me, that's where my
Yeah.
passion comes.
No, I think it's so true. I think so many of us, we get into that sort of fight, flight, freeze mode. And science really shows that we are not at our best when we're in that mode. We are very single focused. And so, in order to tap into our creative problem solving brain, we need to get ourselves back into safety. That is where we are more effective. That is where we can start doing some of those things. And we have to know ourselves, the physicality as well as the emotional and psychological of those things, so that we want to put ourselves in the spaces where we can be creative, we can be successful, we can get into flow states as opposed to just, kind of walking around and feeling like we need to, in fact, react to everything. And so we need to know ourselves well enough and come up with a few tricks that can remind ourselves to even taking a moment where we take that breath in, let alone actually stepping away and maybe sleeping on it. And coming up with new solutions. It's really critical to us setting ourselves up for success.
You're gonna laugh, but I actually have a necklace that has like the pause button.
I
And
love it.
then it's one of my strategy, like when I feel like, okay, it's getting overwhelming, maybe I need to slow down, and I'll
Yeah.
I'll be wearing my pause necklace because it's normally like my hand will go there and I'm playing with it. And it's a just
It's such
a
a
conscious
reminder.
reminder. Yes, yes.
That's amazing. I love that.
But like little strategies like that, like, what might remind you to do
Yeah.
that?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I'm a huge fan of, like what is one post-it note that you want to have on your monitor that is something that you want to think of until it becomes a little bit more habitual.
I like that. I'll steal it.
Absolutely. It is yours.
I'm loving all the nuggets you're giving me. So what, on top of pausing, reflecting and kind of taking a step back, slowing down to speed up,
Yeah.
what would be one advice you would give to people who are constantly the glue in their organizations? What would
Yeah.
be one?
Yeah. I think the main thing that I usually direct people to is having clarity. I think that really thinking about what's important to you, what's important to your manager, what's important to your team, what's important to your organization. So, really kind of coming back to that and saying, okay, what are we trying to do? And again, if it's a specific project, things change all the time. So, as we're going through this, coming back to that moment of what are we trying to do and why? And so that helps us reground into, okay, we're not doing everything. We don't have to do everything. Let's come back to what we're trying to do and why. And so that helps us, and it helps us ground others into, that aspect of where we should be focusing our attention and how. And for us, sometimes stepping in when other people don't have the wherewithal to have that pause and have that clarity moment, that continues to help us be the glue in those circumstances that really pulls us back to what's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Back to purpose. Back to purpose.
Mhm.
I love that. And I mean, for the HR peeps that are listening, for sure, like that is, we have our personal well-being, we have our
Yeah.
professional, and then we have organizational effectiveness of how we get involved. But, organizations have hundreds and hundreds of different initiatives, and it's hard sometimes to
Absolutely.
question that and take them back to purpose. Like, what's important? What are we doing? And sometimes there's projects happening and there's no alignment, and things
Yeah.
are happening over here, over there, and there's duplication of work and chaos.
Absolutely.
Just,
Yeah. And it's one of the things, when we talk about employee engagement, one of the keys is people really want to feel a part of something else. They don't want to feel like just a cog. And so having that communication, not only for yourself, but for the organization, so that everybody really understands why what they're doing is driving towards this bigger purpose. Those are the things that get people invested and lit up and engaged in
and
wanting to do
excited.
more.
Yeah,
And it helps them, again, make decisions because they're understanding what the purpose is. They're not just executing like a number of steps.
exactly. Exactly. I love that. I love that, Dana. So tell me, where can people find you? Your socials, your website. Tell us more.
Yes, absolutely. You can find me at danazellers.com. Is always my website and places to find me. I hang out mostly on LinkedIn at dzellers and on Instagram at Dana_Zellers.
And we'll attach all that to the YouTube description. And Dana, if you do you have a freebie or something you want to offer and we can attach it to?
Well, I do. Thank you for asking. One of the things that I love to share, it is one of the first things that I share with my clients when we start working together. It is the Better Week Blueprint. And this is a template so that, again, we can start our reflection process and being intentional during our week. We can also start to be less reactive because we're putting time on our calendar for things that are important, as well as reflecting on what's working and what's maybe not working so much. And you can find that at danazellers.com/better week.
Oh my God, Dana, it's like I'm talking to the mirror right now. I love it. I do a little weekly check-in as a family on Sundays. So we prepare for like the next week. And
Absolutely.
especially with family because you have
Yeah.
like kids activities and of course
Yeah.
for depending
It
where you
makes it
are,
makes
right.
such a difference to go in your week. It helps you feel prepared. It combats those Sunday scaries when you're going into things because you just take a little time and make sure that you're working on things, you know what's coming ahead, and maybe looking ahead into the next week.
And reschedule things if they don't fit, right? Like I
Yeah,
find myself, I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is not a priority this week. You can wait until next
exactly.
week. So just move things
Exactly.
around.
Yeah. And
Um,
just being able to have that moment where you're like, okay, I can be proactive about
yep.
rescheduling things, as opposed to just getting to the moment and realizing that I don't have enough time for all of these things. So putting that thought in ahead of time, it saves us a ton of time upfront.
I love it.
We are
I love it.
slowing down to speed up.
Thank you, Dana. Thank you so much. And I think the world needs more glue like you. So thank you
Oh,
for being you.
thank you. And you. Thank you so much for having me.